the competition, do you? But let's be honest, it's not really a competition, is it?
Homelander vs. Black Noir, the boys finale. Boys, was that Herogasm fight something, eh? Jensen Ackles, Carl Urban, and Anthony Starr really went in on each other to make sure that their soup showdown felt as explosive and impactful as it should have been in real life. But if you noticed how it ended, even with 3 people holding him down, Homelander was able to pretty much brush them off and fly away. Sorry, wee Huey, guess your teleportation trick wasn't worth it after all. But that does beg the question, if Soldier Boy and FV-enhanced Butcher and Huey working together can't take down Homie, then who can? Well, given that Garth Ennis and Derek Robinson's seminal adult comic included its main storyline about a decade ago, you can guess that there's at least someone who's strong enough to put this maniac down for good, but if you actually read through them, you're gonna have a hard time lifting your jaw from the floor, because if you've only seen the TV series, what we're about to tell you might blow your mind, but in the comics, it's none other than Black Noir who manages to neutralize the Homelander. But how? Why? And why is it Black Noir who does him in? We'll answer all of that and more in this video. This is Homelander vs. Black Noir, the boys finale explored. Oh, and before we forget, this is your spoiler warning because we might potentially ruin the ending of the TV show with this one. And before we get too deep into our explanation, we do have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Now, let's begin.
You know what? That's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna let you or anyone else take my future away from me.
Black Noir is Homelander's clone in the comics. The TV show portrays Black Noir as an African-American man with severe brain damage thanks to his jealous teen captain, a tree nut allergy, a possible selective mutism, and a definite penchant for causing the most mess during a mission. Just ask Dakota Bob about the Hard Rock Cafe in Lagos, or maybe don't. The guy's running for president and he could use a non-soup-related headache for once. Additionally, Season 3, Episode 7 revealed that Noir's mind processes stress, trauma, and fear by animating inanimate characters around him in his own brain and interacting with them to gather his resolve.
You threw this too.
Together we're gonna be okay. You are our friend.
Usually, this is done with the help of Buster Beaver and his pizza pals, which is all kinds of adorable and tragic at the same time. Somehow, they've managed to turn Vought's ruthless assassin and Silent Knight into a character you can actually sympathize with, without him having said a single word in the current continuity.
Bravery is having fear, but you do it anyway.
In fact, Black Noir is one of the fan favorites of the show, one of Vought's most loyal soldiers, and a diametrically opposing existence to Homelander in more ways than one, which is perhaps the biggest irony about his adapted portrayal in the comics. Black Noir isn't someone who deserves your sympathy, he's just a straight-up psychopath. Oh, and also a clone of Homelander. So, here's the story, folks. In the comics, Homelander was created using the DNA of the original soup, Stormfront, and so were his strongest team members, Queen Mav and Black Noir. But while Queen Mav is rather outspoken, cynical, and highly individualistic piece of work, Noir is quite literally a silent beast. He doesn't talk to anyone, not even his company-anointed therapist, and what's even weirder is that he sticks to Homelander like a loyal little attack dog. In fact, Homelander even says that Black Noir is his best friend, presumably because he doesn't bother him with opposition unlike the rest of the Seven.
I'm really glad to have you with me on this one, pal.
But that still doesn't explain why he wouldn't tell him about the boys being at Herogasm, because if you've read the comics or seen one of our many videos on the topic, you'll know that Black Noir introduced himself to Huey during that miniseries in a rather disturbing fashion, but for some reason, he never alerted the Seven or Vought to their presence, and they were able to carry out their mission as planned. This is crucial to the story because the Herogasm sting was pivotal in many ways. It exposed Vought's ties to Congress, it gave Butcher dirt that could directly prosecute the Vice President of the USA if he managed to gather hard evidence on the same, and it also marked the true beginning of Homelander's descent into insanity.
We be who you were always meant to be. Pure.
Oh, and also Soldier Boy debuted in the story too, so we guess there's that as well. But the fact still remains that had Noir simply reported them as having been present for Herogasm, the Seven and Vought might have been able to subdue Butcher's boys and prevented attracting the absolute PR nightmare that was Homelander's coup attempt. Which really made it a mystery as to why Noir did what he did, something Mother's Milk was pursuing hard in issue 64. Believed that Noir was the key to cracking Vought's legal defense and bringing their empire of lies burning to the ground, and in issue 65 we found out that he was right. But the revelation that his intuition led to was far more disturbing than even he originally believed. While Huey and Butcher were setting up shop outside the White House with a swarm of Marines at their disposal, Frenchie, and the female were using the Legend's resources to track Black Noir's history. And what they found was enough to incriminate Vought, but not enough to explain his behavior. So thought about it, and he thought about it, and then the realization came to him. The reason why Black Noir doesn't talk is because he's Homelander's clone, and this is something that was referenced as far back as issue number 61. In that issue, James Stillwell reveals Homelander's conception and upbringing to Jess Bradley, referencing Stormfront's contributions and the fact that they had to keep a nuke aimed at baby Homelander at all times, just in case. Now, Jess understood immediately that having a nuclear bomb as a contingency if Homelander went rogue was a last-ditch measure, but she brought up a fair point by singling out the kind of impact a nuclear strike would have on planet Earth if that were to be the only way to contain him. To which Stillwell replied that their scientists managed to neutralize that option by coming up with a stronger, more streamlined weapon that could get as close to him as possible whenever they needed it to be there. And in issue number 65, we get the payoff to this statement in one of the more unnerving theory breakdowns committed to a comic book page.
Why would he kill Crimson Countess when he was your team leader? You have any idea?
What did Black Noir do as Homelander's clone in the comics, and why? Issue 65 opens with Billy Butcher walking into the Oval Office to confront Homelander, who has just finished introducing Victor Newman's brains to his nether region. Butcher taunts Homelander by calling his massacre impressive, which makes him explode with rage because, as he told Stillwell previously, he doesn't need to impress anybody. Homelander is clearly trying to assert control over his own life when he says that he did what he did for himself because he had the power to do it. Butcher just compares him to every other Adolf who gets a rush of blood to their loins, which rubs him the wrong way, but Homie actually handles it like a champ. He immediately breaks Butcher's tough guy act by telling him he knows why he's here. Homelander probably violated and murdered his wife, but he doesn't really remember that. Nor does he remember doing any of the heinous acts that he committed in the photographs that were being circulated all across the world now thanks to Butcher's boys, but he supposed that's how a dissociative identity disorder works.
Tell me the real reason. I want to hear you say it. Say it! Want them to.
After all, we did see him talking to himself in the mirror in issue number 49, and he did seem to conclude that he was crazy and responsible for everything that was being done in those pictures, which led him to shed all of his masks and set out to conquer America and then the world. He was just recalling how Mav tried to hit him with a metal prop sword after he noticed the cute crowbar Butcher was carrying, but that's when Black Noir walked into the Oval Office with his creepy little laugh and took off his mask, revealing that he was Homelander's clone. We get the lowdown on the revelation from Huey, who's outside and crapping himself with every sentence that gets through. See, Mother's Milk had a theory that Vought had cloned Homelander and made the clone stronger, faster, and more durable than him. He postulated that they did this because Homelander was their top investment and they couldn't risk blowing him up and causing a nuclear winter at the same time just to protect their brand's image in case he went rogue. So they made the clone, gave him extensive combat training, something Homelander himself doesn't have, and put him in an all-black suit right next to him. Now, points out that Black Noir and Homelander did everything together. They even slept with girls together, if you could believe it, which we do, because we literally saw an example of that in issue number 3. And he also draws attention to the transcript of the night Homelander had Noir assault Mav as a prank, where Homelander is gushing about how the two of them are exactly the same, and how Mav wouldn't even known it was Noir if he didn't F it up. Connects all the dots and concludes that Black Noir is Homelander's clone who was created with the sole purpose of killing him and replacing him should he ever get out of line. But because Homelander was so good at his job that he became a walking effing license to print money, MM's words, not ours, Vought never tried to get rid of him, and this literally drove Noir crazy. He had to not only live next to his target, but he also pretended to be his best friend for decades on end, which would drive any of us insane if you really think about it. And so Noir decided that if he couldn't get Homelander through Vought, then he'd have to do something about it himself. shocks Huey by telling him that it was Noir who was in those pictures they leaked to the press, and that Noir was the one who actually violated Billy's wife, not Homelander. He tells Huey that the assault on him was probably kept quiet because that was Noir's opportunity to fulfill his life's destiny, and it all falls into place for the wee Highland lad. He wants to disagree with MM's picture-perfect deduction, but Noir confirms the same inside the Oval Office when he tells Homelander that he put on his silly suit and did some lovely and scary things in them. He even goes so far as to reveal that he had been planning this for years and was actually sitting on the photos till he got the right opportunity to leak them, which presented itself to him on a silver platter at Herogasm. So, Noir put on Homie's suit, ate and messed about with a bunch of dead people, and framed him into literally going insane. Seriously, by the time Noir is done giving his broken and eerie speech to Homelander and Butcher with that stupid yet unsettling grin stuck on his face, even Billy ends up empathizing with Homie by confirming for him that he became an effing psychopath by mistake. So far, Homelander has been holding himself responsible for all those actions he saw in those photographs because it didn't even cross his mind that there could be a clone of him out there. And to be honest, who would? He simply assumed that it couldn't be him because he didn't remember doing it, but then it had to be because it was clearly him in those pictures. This dilemma broke his sanity to the point where he staged a coup in an attempt to break away Supes from Vought and the government and make their own independent community. But now that he had found out that he was right in thinking it wasn't him all along, it broke him again. And that led to the epic final battle of the Boys comic book series, which we will now break down.
Your time's over, Noir. It's my turn. I paid my fucking dues.
Homelander versus Black Noir. The final of the Boys ends with a double kill. Homelander snaps when he realizes the true extent of Noir's actions, while Butcher simply stares at him with ice-cold eyes. Homie fires up his laser beams and lunges at his former teammate and best friend, yelling profanities left, right, and center. But remember what MM told Huey about Noir? He was faster and stronger than Homelander himself. On 9/11, Black Noir was able to withstand falling 5 miles and having a plane blow up in his face and walking away with no signs of duress whatsoever. So while Homie lunged at his clone with all the fury of a 10-year-old who had just lost his favorite toy to his least favorite friend, Noir uses his decades worth of combat training to simply dodge the attack and punch his lower jaw clean off his face. We don't get to witness the ensuing fight because our eyes and ears in the Oval Office was Butcher, and he gets out of that place as soon as the Supes engage each other. Butcher reaches the Marines stationed outside the White House and commandeers a machine gun turret, commanding all his men to point their artillery towards the White House lawn. As if to oblige him, a Supe bursts into existence, and when the dust settles, it's clear who was left standing inside. Homelander was the strongest Supe Vought had ever created. He had powers no other Supe had ever exhibited before, and his potential was truly limitless had he been disciplined properly from an early age. He managed to get a lot of good hits on his lunatic clone, disemboweling him and even blowing his right eye and a chunk of his right skull clean off, but in the end, all that was left of Homelander was his hand. Black Noir had ruthlessly ended his mission and was ecstatic about it when he showed up to the front lawn with his prize in hand. Butcher commanded all Marines to open fire on him, which left him even more emaciated and in pieces than he was before, but he kept on laughing like a maniac. So Butcher stepped onto the lawn, crowbar in hand, and pried his cranium open, taking out a piece of his you-know-what and telling him that if he was lucky, this is where Noir's memory of violating Becca existed, and he crushed it in his hand, ending Noir's life and seemingly his own personal vendetta once and for all. Will The Boys TV show have a similar ending? How to put this into words simply, concisely, and cleanly? No. Amazon's The Boys has taken a completely different direction in that they've turned Homelander into a composite character and incorporated Black Noir's comic book misdeeds into his character overall. Sure, it is possible that Homelander and Black Noir will come face to face and end up fighting each other over now that Soldier Boy has been revealed as Homie's biological father, but if that ends up happening, then Noir doesn't stand a chance. The show makes it clear that even though Noir is a physical specimen in his own right and the longest tenured superhero in service of Vought, he is nowhere near Homelander or Soldier Boy's level. As Season 3, Episode 7 showed us, it was Soldier Boy who left him in his current state in the first place, and in the finale of Season 1 of The Boys, Diabolical, we see that all Noir could do when faced with a pissed off Homelander was run. We don't exactly fancy his chances now that Homelander probably knows that it was Noir who sold out his dad in the first place. That's the sort of thing that makes him really mad, you know? So yes, there is a possibility that Homelander and Black Noir will fight in the TV show too, but it will be far more one-sided and in the opposite direction from the comics. Besides, what is more likely that Homelander will end up losing the climactic battle of the boys to Ryan, who has been painted as Vought's last contingency against Homie multiple times by both Butcher and Stan Edgar himself? And we know that Ryan is probably already stronger than his father.
You see? I told you. Just like me, Ryan.
No, I'm not.
Remember the final episode of Season 2? Ryan was able to blow off Stormfront's legs, an arm, and half of her face with his first use of his laser eyes. Contrast that with earlier in the season when Homelander lasers her for pleasure, and you can see the difference in scaling. While it can be argued that Homelander was controlling the pressure of his laser beams, what can't be denied is that if Ryan knew how to control his powers better, he would have probably cooked Stormfront alive, giving her a death that would somehow be both more and less painful for her than the fate she ended up giving to herself. In fact, we think it's precisely for this reason that Butcher sent him along with Mallory, because he knows that Ryan is a good person and can truly become the key to defeating Homelander. But he burned that bridge himself in Season 3, Episode 3, when he openly blames Ryan for killing Becca for the first time since her passing. So it's unclear as to where his priorities will lie when he does become a bigger part of the story, and he will, ladies and gentlemen, trust us. But it is possible that Ryan could be the one to kill Homelander when all is said and done. Because we've seen Butcher give it a go already, and he couldn't get the job done with Soldier Boy and a V-juiced Huey, and we doubt that getting his hands on permanent Compound V is going to make a lot of difference either, so really Ryan is the only one left in terms of relative strength. And in any case, Homelander vs. Black Noir isn't technically the end of the series, because as it turns out, Butcher is the real villain of the entire story, but that's a topic for another day, Marvelous viewers. For now, let's get into our verdict. Marvelous verdict. The reveal of Black Noir being Homelander's clone was peak big brain activity in the boys' comics. You'll see what we mean by that when you read the issue yourself. Like, dang, slow down with all these 100% plot-driven revelations and make a wrong guess to keep things realistic already. But that's what made the reveal that much more effective. Ask any fan of the comics what their favorite plot twist was from Garth and Derek's work, and chances are, 9 times out of 10, they will point you to issue 65. That's just how important that issue is to the entire lore of the boys' universe. Sure, clone sagas are often played out. I should know, I grew up reading Spider-Man comics in the 90s and early 2000s, but Ennis and Roberts made this one work with their superior timing and their knack for pulling off shocking moments with alarming consistency. Homelander vs. Black Noir is something that would have seemed impossible to you when they're both introduced in issue 3 of The Boys, but by the time the series concluded, everything made sense, and it culminated in a showdown that we admittedly didn't get to see, but that we can fantasize about as much as we want to because we already know the end result. But what we can look forward to seeing is how Homelander meets his end in the TV show. Will it be at the hands of his own son? Will it be because of Butcher? Will Soldier Boy end up betraying him? Or will it be Cindy who rips him apart with her telekinetic powers? Guess we're going to have to keep watching to find that out, but until then, thank you for watching the video. And as always, if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thank you everyone.
The situation's changed.
I thought we should have a conversation.
I don't know who the fuck you think you are, but you got lucky once because you